Hey, everybody. Welcome to Your Own Pathway Therapy Conversations, where we talk about what most therapists only whisper about. For those who don't know me, my name is Paia. I'm a licensed psychotherapist and trauma informed organizational leadership consultant. And here we speak about topics we've been conditioned to stay quiet about, the ones that rock the boat. But here, we're not protecting the silence, we're breaking it. So let's own it. And as you can see from the title, today's episode is something that happens a lot, and yet it is something that we don't talk much about. And it's something that we have protected, and there's a lot of nuances to this. And so today's episode is me talking about how I escaped my abusive jobs. So before we start, I just wanted to let everybody know who chooses to watch this that this is going to be one of my longer episodes, and that is intentional because I'm telling a story that, again, a lot of people never talk about because when you're in it, you don't know what's happening. You don't know if you're imagining things. You don't know if you're being dramatic. You don't know if you're allowed to feel what you're feeling. So, I'm going to walk through my experience in detail. And this is not to be dramatic, it's not to bash anyone, and definitely not to sit in victimhood, but to give language to something so many people probably go through without realizing it. And that's feeling maybe being slowly worn down or definitely feeling confused, blamed, shamed, overworked, and unsupported in workplaces that were supposed to care. If you're watching this or listening to this and you've ever wondered, is it me? Am I the problem? Why does this feel so heavy? I want you to hear my story and understand that you're not alone and you're not imagining it because the details matter, the emotions matter, because sometimes it's hearing someone else's story in full that it finally helps you see clearly about what you're going through. So this episode is long because real experiences don't fit into 10, 15, 20 minutes. And I want to give you the space, the clarity, and the validation that I didn't have when I was going through all of this. So let's get right into it. So part one. Why am I sharing this story? First of all, I want to say that I'm sharing this story not to bash anyone, not to share the story as a victim. Not I'm sharing this I'm sharing this to show all of you what workplace trauma actually looks like and feels like, to help all of you recognize patterns that you may be living through and you're thinking, is this normal? Is it me? To validate anyone doubting their emotions, and most important to say to all of you is you're not imagining it and you are not the problem. So, to start this story, let's go way back to 2017. And when I'm sharing this, it's been about 8 years now. So, wow, 8 years. Um, so let's go back to 2017 when all of this started. And first of all, I want to say I've dealt with some places where I felt like I was being mistreated or that I was singled out for certain things. However, it has never been to the point of these two jobs that I'm going to talk today about. And so I took this job because I needed my clinical hours to become a therapist. And for those who don't know much about therapy, social work, or our therapy field, in order to become a therapist, you have to have a certain amount of clinical hours to become a therapist. And so I was at the point of my social work career where I knew that if I wanted to make more or be more, I had to become a clinical therapist or have the clinical license at least. And so I'm like, okay, that is the next step. And I took a job that offered me all of this. I was hesitant at first, but I felt like I had no choice because that was the only way to go up. And when I took this job, there was already a part of me, I'm going to admit right now, that there was already a part of me that felt the resentment because this was the lowest paying job of my entire professional career, even lower than my first federal job as a new grad in 2008. And again, I felt the resentment and I owned that. And I stayed because they offer me free clinical supervision. And for a lot of people, a lot of therapists who are going through that, that is key for us because otherwise we would have to pay out of our pocket. And so it's like, okay, they may pay me low, but they're offering me all these additional benefits. So I had to see it that way. And yes, there were benefits to that. So, one of the things I also wanted to call out was I was driving 30 minutes away for this job since I was living in Wisconsin at that time. I was the only BIPOC clinician. So, for those who don't know, I was the only person of color of the entire staff, of the entire organization, by the way. And you're probably wondering, why does that matter? I'm naming it because it shaped the power dynamics. And it also influenced decisions and outcomes. And again, not because I'm a victim, but because it's the truth. I'm saying this because I know that there are a lot of BIPOC and people of color who may decide to watch this episode and are thinking, am I overthinking this? Maybe I'm sensitive. Maybe it's not there and I'm just making things up. Nope, you are not. So that's why I had to call that out. So let's talk about the workload. Okay, so for anybody who has ever worked in community mental health, it is not easy. You know that we serve the most marginalized of the marginalized people within the communities. Often these people were in the system, and oftentimes generational trauma after generational trauma. So just a lot of things going on psychosocially. And when I took this job, honestly, the training felt very inadequate. I'm sure most of you are like, yep, that happened to my job too. So, because I was working for a community mental health and a lot of people needed services, our job as clinicians were often to complete what was called diagnostic assessments. For those who don't know, diagnostic assessments are basically gathering information, their symptoms, how it impacts their functioning, and how their mental health impacts their day to day life, and how this diagnosis would, how their diagnosis means that they need extra help. And so that was the diagnostic assessment to say, hey, this person has like depression. And so because they have depression, they need help with XYZ. And so that was mainly my job. It was to update these diagnostic assessments, which at that time needed to be updated once a year. And these diagnostic assessments were between 12 to 15 pages long for one person. And this is important because when I did those diagnostic assessments, it meant that I could not build up my caseload. So when I couldn't build up my caseload, that destroyed my productivity numbers. So it looked like I wasn't doing much because diagnostic assessments, the interview only took an hour. And so to the company, my productivity, it didn't matter that I had paperwork to do. It only mattered that the number of clients I was seeing. So that's why it's important to talk about how the diagnostic assessments impacted my productivity. So, because I was assigned so many diagnostic assessments to update, at one time, I kid you not, I was behind 15 assessments. Yes, 15 assessments. And I had to say, can I take my work home? That was the only way I could do it. So, needless to say, I was drowning in my work. I was drowning so much in my work, and, at that time, I had 2 supervisors. So, to clarify, I'm a clinical supervisor, which was a, licensed independent clinical social worker who would sign off my notes, who would kinda be like your mentor and would review my notes, my diagnosis, what am I doing well, what are the challenges, and to really hone me in and, help me with my clinical skills. And then my other boss was like my direct supervisor and the person that I reported to. So I informed both of them that I was just drowning. Like I was drowning in work. I was so behind. I was just so behind. And as a result, I just asked, can you ask the schedulers to stop scheduling me more assessments? Like, can you tell them to stop assigning me more diagnostic assessments to do until I get caught up? And the response was no, you cannot because your productivity is low. So, regardless of what, I felt like I was losing. Like I was just losing. And, we've all done this, where when a workplace is like very unhealthy, we trauma bond. So of course I trauma bond with my colleagues, who also felt the same way about the work, their position, their lack of support, and everybody was overwhelmed. And this agency had a history of um, a revolving door of therapists where therapists would not stay for long, and I could see why. I could totally see why. And even through all of this, even when I brought up my issues to my clinical supervisor, I'm like, I'm just drowning. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I keep speaking up, and like, what more can I do? And for anybody who's ever worked with therapists or social workers, we always say just keep advocating for yourself, keep speaking up, keep advocating yourself. And sometimes you just want to say, God damn it, just give me a solution. What else can I do besides keep advocating for myself because it's not working? And at that point, I felt like nothing was working. Like, well, how much more do I have to advocate for myself before people start listening? It just felt like nobody was listening to me, and yeah, nobody was listening to me. So my breaking point was so I had been at this job for a few weeks, probably a few months, because I started this job in the fall of 2017. And whew, my gosh, one of those nights, so I did outpatient therapy. So one of the nights you have to stay late to meet like the clientele who, can't do the 9 to 5. And on a Monday night, probably like between 6 and 7 p.m., not that that matters, but my supervisor came into my office. Now, this is my direct supervisor, not my clinical supervisor. And she said she wanted to talk to me about my requests and what I've been going through. I thought she was there to problem solve with me. I'm like, okay, all right, we're gonna problem solve and we're gonna come up with a solution that would work. Oof, how wrong was I? And I explained again, I reinforced again. I said, I'm behind. I'm new at this. I've never written diagnostic assessments in my whole social work career, other than biopsychosocial, which is very different. Diagnostic assessments, what happens is like you take all the information and then you diagnose them and give them a mental health diagnosis. And so when you're new, of course, you are very careful because let's be honest, having a mental diagnosis is a serious thing, and you want to make sure that you diagnose them with the correct diagnosis. And so when you're new, you're like very careful, and you need to like slow down. You need to really think about things. So I was like explaining how many diagnostic assessments I was getting, and why I was behind, and how my productivity was low. Because if I am doing diagnostic assessments consistently, that doesn't always leave room for me to have long term clients, which again impacted my productivity. And so I was telling her about why, well, like what was going on. And after I said my piece, I would never forget this. She just looked at me and she did the math in her head and said, this isn't an us thing. This is a you thing. It's a time management issue. It's not us, it's you. And at that moment, I just felt taken aback like, holy shit. She's not here to problem solve with me. She's here to blame me. And that's also the moment I knew they will never advocate for me. They will never advocate for me. As a matter of fact, the more I advocate for myself, the more they're going to come back and try to put something on me. And so, of course, after that conversation, I just was like, what was that about? It's me, not you? Could you not hear what I was trying to say? Like, you couldn't even hear what I was trying to say to you. I'm trying to tell you, I am drowning. I need help. And you're telling me it's you. You're the problem, not us. And after she left, I just like shut my door. And I never do this. I never do this. I never get emotional. Well, okay, I take that back. I get emotional, but I get angry. Like, I get angry. I get upset. I get angry. I'm like, rah, rah, rah. I never, ever, ever cry. Never. I'm not a crier, believe it or not. I'm not a crier. At a job, I'm not a crier. I never cry. And I shut that door and I just stood behind the door and I just remember like putting my hands doing this. And I'm like, oh my God. And I just broke down. I just broke down and I'm like, oh my God, they're never going to listen to me. They're never going to listen to me. And that's when I thought, wait a minute. I shouldn't be crying at work, at a job. This isn't normal. So, for anybody who is crying at their job, in the bathroom, in an office, I just want to say it is not normal for you to cry at your job because of your job. If you are crying because of your job, it is time for you to start assessing because you don't have to keep crying. Some people feel that crying at a job is a rite of passage to be treated like shit. No, no. When you're crying at work, that's not normal for you to cry at a job at work. A job is not supposed to make you cry. So, after that event, I just, I kept doing what I had to do. And I would have to get approval to work from home. No, not work from home, to take my work home. So I would work on the weekends. And I just remember feeling so, again, so resentful that I was spending my goddamn weekends working so goddamn hard for so little money. And yeah, and people are like, why does this make you so resentful? It's like, because the time, the energy, I was doing all of this and I was getting paid nothing, nothing. And honestly, if I was getting paid more, I would have been like, okay, I understand why I have to do work. But I was making like barely anything. And so that's why I was so resentful. And I just remember telling like a family, like my cousin, I'm like, I've never worked so hard for so little money. I'm like, this is not like, I shouldn't be feeling this way. I shouldn't have been doing this. So I just continue to do my work, try to be on top of it. And was I ever on top of my DAs? No, I wasn't because I was behind. And it came to the point where I just didn't care anymore. I just didn't care anymore because I'm like, they're never going to listen. So I'm like, if I'm behind, I'm behind. I'm doing the best I can. That's all I can do. I'm doing the best I can. What more do you want from me? And I even said that, like, what more do you want from me? I can't do any more. If you want more, then start making changes so that I can actually get my work done. So, I'm like doing things, I'm trying my best. And I actually came to, again, the realization that I'm doing my best. There's nothing more I can do. I will do the work, but I can't do anything more either. And so, talking about the trauma bonding with my coworkers, we talk, coworkers talk. And I just said to them, I'm like, I'm still so behind. I, what can I do? Like, what did you guys do? And they're like, oh, yeah, I was so behind too. And I emailed HR and the boss and saying, know what? I can't take on anymore. That's my new boundary. I have boundaries, okay? I can't take any more. And so they stopped. They stopped giving assigning me new like diagnostic assessments so that I can catch up on my paperwork. I'm like, oh wow. I was like, really? Okay. I'm like, maybe that's what I need to do. They're like, yeah, you should do that too. You should say, you know what, that's your boundary now. And I laugh because it's like, oh, boundaries. This is like 2018. So, boundaries was something that we talked about our clients, but we didn't talk about boundaries in workplace. Okay. And so I'm like, oh gosh, yeah, I need to establish my boundaries too here, don't I? Well, that Monday night, it was one of my late nights again. I decided to email our HR. And just to clarify, this was like a small organization and one person was HR. So I emailed them. I explained why I would like to not have diagnostic assessments be assigned to me until I catch up. Or if they could at least like hold off on like assigning me so many a week. I was like, okay, I'm like, if you could do that, that would be great. And so I was so proud of myself that night when I'm like, yeah, put in my boundary, like I reinsert my boundaries, and this is what it's gonna work for me now. Oh, honey. So I go to work on Tuesday. Nothing happens. I'm like, this is interesting. And then I go to work on Wednesday. I will always remember this day because it was Valentine's Day. It was a Wednesday. And I remember it was a Wednesday because it was our weekly meeting with the whole staff of clinicians. So I started out with the meeting started at 8. I got there like at 7:50 and I checked my email quick to see just to check my email. Oh, I saw an email from HR and I just remember thinking, "Oh shit." Like, "Oh shit." Like, okay, and I read it and it was like, the feeling of doom over you? I had the doom feeling and it said, "Please meet us." Have a meet like you have a meeting scheduled at 8 a.m. to meet with HR and with my boss. And I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, okay, something's gonna go down here. Something's gonna go down. And so, you feel that doom and you're like, okay, all right. You try not to think of the worst, but your intuition already knew that this was the worst. So 8 o'clock comes around, all my colleagues are, in the meeting room meeting together. And I go to a room. They're all there waiting for me already. And there's a chair right in the middle. That was for me. And there's 3 of them out there. It was HR, my direct boss, and some lady I've never seen before. Like, I'm like, who the hell is that lady? But apparently she was someone very important. And so I sit down and they're all, doing their little chit chat saying, how are you? All that. I'm like, yeah, whatever. And they're like, the reason why we called you into this meeting is there have been concerns about your work, your productivity, and how you're performing. And I just sat there, listened. I think during that time, my body was kind of not, I felt like I was kind of dissociated too. Like I was there, but I wasn't there. But I heard everything. And so, yeah, it was like kind of like a dissociation. And I just remember them saying that because of your productivity and your my low productivity and my, I don't want to say they said anything about my work ethic, but how I was performing, that I did not meet the qualifications to work there anymore. And as a result, they were going to terminate our partnership immediately, effective right now, and that I needed to grab all my stuff and that HR will escort me out. And yeah, and they asked me, do you have anything to say? And I just remember looking at all three of them and I nodded my head. I just said, you know what? You're right. I agree. I agree that this partnership has come to an end. And nope, that's all there is to say. And yeah, I don't think I even thanked them. Did I thank them? I don't remember. I don't think I said thank you for this opportunity because honestly, I'm like, why the fuck do I need to thank you? So, yes. And so HR takes me back to my office. And this whole time, HR was so nervous. I'm like, honey, why are you like nervous? Like she was just very like she was like grasping her hands and just doing this, like she was like nervous or something. I'm thinking, honey, like you're fine. You're not the one that got fired. I don't know why you're so nervous. And so I go back to my office, which was honestly the desk was really messy because I didn't plan to, I wasn't anticipating getting fired, so I didn't know that I had to, you know, clean my desk and everything, like the inside of the desk. I grabbed my necessary stuff and I think I like the most important part was my Target gift card. Okay, this is 2017. So I'm like, I'm grabbing that gift card, man. And so I put my meager belongings into this box that they gave me. Since I was only there for 6 months, I did not accumulate a lot of stuff. And honestly, there was a part of me that knew that this job was not going to last that long for me. And so I'm putting all my stuff away, and people see me walking out, and they're like, one of them is like, Paya, where are you going? I said, oh, I got fired. It's like, oh, what? You got fired? I'm like, mm-hmm. And they're like, oh my gosh, like what happened? I'm like, oh, I just got fired. Apparently, I wasn't doing my job, so I got fired. And they're like, oh. And so I wasn't trying, I wasn't going to sugarcoat anything because I did. I got fired. So I'm like, what is there to hide? I'm going to say what it is. And so I grabbed my meager belongings. I'm being escorted out like a criminal, grabbing my box and being escorted out like a criminal as if like I was going to steal stuff or be reactive. I'm like, whatever. And again, HR was like just so nervous and like she was kind of a wreck. Like she was just like, oh gosh, okay. I'm like, you're okay. Why are you acting this way? And then she's like, is there anything I can help you with? And I said, no, there's nothing that I can help me with. And I said her name and I just said, I just want to say one last thing is that you will lose. You will continue to lose a lot of people if you guys don't make changes. You will lose people. People will continue to quit if you guys don't do anything to help your therapist. And she didn't say anything back because I think she knew that I was right. And so I put my stuff in my car and I drove, and it was not even 9 a.m. yet, y'all. It was not even 9 a.m. yet. I'm like, well, thinking, at least they fired me in the morning so I have the whole day to myself, you know? And so yeah, this is February 14th, Valentine's Day. It had just snowed, but it was a sunny day though. Was a sunny it was a sunny day, and I was just, like, riding in my car thinking, "Wow, I got fired from this job," and so it didn't hit me yet, and looking back on my feelings, I'm like, "Okay." I felt a lot of anger, but at the same time, I also felt relief. I felt relief because I'm like, "Oh my god, this job was never gonna work out, so I'm glad they fired me." I'm glad, like, they fired me, and so, yeah. So, I so because I got fired, I qualified for unemployment, and honestly, it was the most stressful time of my life in a very, very, very long time. I got unemployment, and it was actually a decent amount. I got paid every week, for the first time in my life, my working career, my nervous system finally rested. I went to the YMCA to exercise like at 10 a.m. with like retirees. I'm like, wow, this is so nice. I went grocery shopping during the day when everybody else is at work. I'm like, wow, this is really nice. I mean, it wasn't glamorous, but it was so peaceful. Like, I'm like, okay, you know what? It's not that bad getting fired. This was actually the best thing that happened for me, and to get fired. And another thing that I wanted to share why I kind of felt kind of calm was in the background, I kind of had another job going on already. So the thing was, I applied for my VA job and this job at the same time. Except this job reached out in like a week and hired me, which was very fast. The VA, if anybody's ever worked for like a large organization or federal, they take their sweet ass time. They take their sweet ass time. People will be finding other jobs and they'll be like, "Hey, we want to interview you." It's like, really? I already have a job already. It was to the point where I was thinking that too. So behind all of this, I was already interviewing with the VA. Like I had interviewed with the VA already. They were doing a background check on me and everything, all that stuff. So during the time that I got fired, um, the VA was kind of like in the process of hiring me already. Not hiring me, but they were like getting everything ready. But they take their sweet ass time. So I got the job as a VA. Everything was confirmed like in April. So within like a month and a half, I got a new job. Everything was confirmed, and I had to move. I had to uproot my life and everything. So next story. So that was the old ending story of how I escaped my first toxic job was I got fired. Second is the VA job, and I feel comfortable enough to say the VA job because it is what it is. It is a VA job. It is a government job. If you checked in my late LinkedIn, you will see my work history. And I am not going to protect and say, oh, this big organization. No, it was the VA. So once I got the job at the VA, working for big federal organizations, there's always kinks that you got to work through. There are always things that there's a lot of red tape and all that stuff, which is like, okay, I get it. For the first, I would say 6 to 12 months, it was okay. There were some dynamics that I already noticed, but you just kind of let it go. You just kind of let it go. You're like, okay, it's not that serious. It's not that serious. My turning point, I had two turning points. My first one was, so I was a social worker, and my role was to go into clients' homes. I had to drive, use government vehicles to drive to clients' homes to see them in their home environment and to just see how they're doing. So my job was that. And honestly, some of our clients, our patients lived about 2.5 hours to 3 hours away. And a lot of them lived in the boonies in the middle of nowhere. And on this particular day, I had to go out in the way, 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 way boonies. And it was like 2.5 hours, probably 3 hours away. So when you're driving in these rural areas, sometimes you lose phone service. And when you lose phone service, you don't get GPS. And so my GPS wasn't working. And then when it did, it directed me somewhere completely wrong. So I was able to make it to the client's house, but coming back, it gave me totally wrong directions because I lost service. So I called my colleagues and my boss saying, I'm lost, this is where I am. I'm trying to come home to work. And this was a Friday night too, by the way. I remember so clearly because it was a Friday night. And unfortunately, it took me way longer to get home than I anticipated. My work hours are from 7 to 3:30, so I was supposed to be done by 3:30. I didn't get home that night until like 7:30. I had to return the car, get my car, all that stuff. And I just remember going home and resting. I'm like, holy shit, what a day. So the weekend happened. I think I met with my supervisor, who is also my clinical supervisor, the one that signs my clinical hours. That following Monday, it was pretty soon. It was pretty soon. So for the first 45 minutes of our meeting, it went very well. It was a really good meeting, and I thought it was a good meeting and everything. And I was kind of like happy. I'm like, wow, this is like a really good meeting. The last 10 minutes, she's like, can I talk to you? I'm like, okay. Can I talk to you about what happened the other last week? And I said, yeah. And I thought it was gonna be something like I thought she was gonna like just like voice I mean, honestly, when I look at that situation, I just thought it was kind of funny. Like I was like, "Oh my god, I got lost and everything was okay and everything." I just kind of thought it was like not that serious. And maybe it was that serious, but I got home safely and I followed protocol and everything. And so I'm just like, okay, I didn't think it was that serious, but her tone shifted and she said, that was so, you were irresponsible. And I remember being taken aback again. I'm like, what? What is this about? And she said, you were irresponsible. You wasted resources. You wasted time. You wasted your time and my time and everybody else's time. I thought, wow, how did I waste everybody else's time? Everybody went home. I was like driving, and how did I waste people's time in my head? And most importantly, you wasted the VA's resources and time. I thought, whoa, like what is this coming from? And so because I was lost, I worked an extra 4 hours past my tour of duty time. And so as a result, they had to give me 4 hours of comp time. So for anybody who does not understand, that just means that I get 4 extra hours. Instead of overtime, I get 4 extra hours of comp time to add to my annual leave. And so she was very disappointed and mad that I wasted the VA's time. And as a result, I had to be approved of 4 hours of PTO of comp time. And I just thought, what the fuck? Like, what's happening? The most demeaning part of this is, so for this job, we are all assigned cell phones, like iPhones. And she took out her phone, showed it to me, and pulled up her phone and tried to teach me how to use maps by zooming in and out of maps like I was some dumb child who didn't know how to use a phone. And she's like, this is easy. This is what you do. Like, this is all you have to do. Like, in, out, like doing this. Like, you know how you have a phone? Like, you know how you have a phone here? You're like doing this. She's like, that's all you have to do. And I thought, wow. Wow. I was like, I've been treated lots of different ways, but I don't think I've ever been treated this dumb or this demeaning by my workplace. And as I sat there, I'm like, this is so demeaning and this is so freaking humiliating. And I thought, am I that dumb? Am I like a stupid person? Am I just like a very easy person to like bully and to shame or what? I'm like, is it, I mean, when this happens, you start thinking, is it me? Am I just someone who people think that they can like treat this way, demean? Do they think that I'm easily, someone who can just take this because of what? I'm like, am I easy to bully? Do I have the personality of being bullied where is there something about me that is easily like bullied to be treated like this? And so I started thinking about all this. And that was my first turning point. And so as a result, I have a history when I get mad, I apply for new jobs. And so that's what I did. I immediately went on LinkedIn. I immediately went on Indeed. I immediately went on all these platforms that hire, jobs. And I was so desperate, y'all. I even started applying for Child Protective Services jobs, CPS. For those who don't know, that is a job where you go investigate children who are being abused. And for anybody who also knows, most seasoned social workers like me rarely apply and take jobs like this unless you're either brand new or burnt out or desperate. At that point I became desperate. I became desperate. Like, I became desperate and I applied. I did everything. I was waiting to hear back and nothing ever happened. So I'm like, okay, all right. I didn't get the job. And I did not get the job, of course. And so when this happened, I'm like, okay, you know what? Let's just do your job, have boundaries, do what you're supposed to do. Don't love your job. Just keep your boundaries and supervision with your coworkers. Try to not get lost again. Try to make sure your phone um works. And so I just had to I had just to do that. And so I had to protect myself. And so that's what I did. My next event was in the winter. So, no, this event happened this summer. My next event was in December, and this is the final straw for me. So, in the winter of 2019, right before COVID, of course, I had a accident where it was so useless. I like slipped down the stairs and I broke my right ankle and I had to be taken to the ER and they said it was broken. And so I had to have one of those big ass boots on. So I had no, I had to have a cast on, not even a boot. I had a cast on first. I'm gonna shift here. I had to have a cast on, and I asked the ER doctor to write me a note to say, you know what, I need a week off of work until I could figure out what my next step was. And so I took a week off. I sent it to my boss. At first, her response was she was like so empathetic and like, "Oh my god, I'm so sorry this happened." And so I sent out the letter that the doctor wrote to them, and after that, things started changing. And mind you, this is right before Christmas too, okay? So this is all right before Christmas. This is like the week before Christmas, actually. Shit always happens to me during that time, I swear. And so, and as a result, this is my right ankle too, by the way. And I drive with my right foot. So I couldn't drive, which was essential for my job. And which was also, how I get to work. You get to work, driving to and from work. And so I couldn't do any of that. And so I'm like, I need to I need to rest and come up with a plan about this. And so I took the week off and then I had to think. I'm like, okay, I need to request for temporary accommodations to work from home. Besides driving out to homes, all of my work was done by computer and phone. Everything was done by computer and phone. I could call, I could use my like work cell phone call if I wanted, but I used like my work phone and everything was on the computer. So that's important to also notify because I asked for work accommodations to see if I can get work accommodations to work from home until I could get my boot off and at least just have a brace. During this whole time, my ankle break was the easy part. My ankle break was nothing. The hardest part of all of this was navigating systems, navigating HR, navigating my boss, and navigating the healthcare system that was taking care of me. If I was not a social worker, I don't know how I would have done all this. And I think of all the families who are not and how stressful this is. Because I was a social worker, I knew the system, so I knew what I had to do. I was social working myself basically through this whole process to ensure that HR got what they needed for for pay, and my boss was asking paperwork for me too. And so now that I look back, I'm like, why did she ask for paperwork from me? It should have been HR, but whatever. So yeah, so I requested temporary accommodations to work from home until I can, at least have a brace on because I live in the second floor and this is winter, by the way, winter in Minnesota. And so I, received a doctor's note who recommending that I get special work accommodations to accommodate this. I sent all the necessary paperwork. The doctor signed all the necessary paperwork. I sent all this in HR. The request was denied. And honestly, whoever is watching this in HR, this made me mistrust HR so much. I distrust HR. I'm going to say that right now. Um, my HR interactions were so stressful and again very demeaning. Um, was just like so pointless. I'm like, what is the point of you? Like, what is the point of you, HR? Um, and again, it was my boss, not HR, who demanded extra documentation from me, which again now seems very suspicious. And that was the moment when I'm like, you know what? If I can't get accommodations, if I can't do anything, I'm gonna take time off. If they won't support me, then I will support myself. And I took off a month. I used my leave time. I had leave time. I had sick time that I never used. And I had some vacation time that I used. And I'm like, you know what? If I have to take a week off without pay, I'm willing and gladly do it. So I did that. And I came back to work in the middle of January. So I took a month off. I returned to work mid January and because I could not drive, I had to Uber to and from work every day for about like 10 to 12 weeks. And whew, my bill was up there. But you know what? Um, I had to do what I had to do. I had to Uber, and that was the only way that I can come to work. And the most nuisance part was like, I just sat at the office. I just sat at the office with my leg elevated, and yeah, that was it. Oh, and I had a walker, of course. But so during this time, I am still having clinical supervision, and I had a meeting with my supervisor. So we had our supervision meeting, and she uses the last 10 minutes to express her concerns of what she wanted to talk about. And she wanted to discuss how I had been since my ankle break and my behavior and my reactions that she wanted to discuss. I have never been called certain words or certain names by people before. And so she said to me, I will always remember this because I've never been called this word before, fickle. She said, you were very fickle. Your response was very fickle. You were avoidant, and you're not accountable for anything that you have done. You've been avoiding me. You've been so fickle about this. You have not been giving me clear directions. You have not kept me up to date about what your status is. And I'm like, oh, God, this again. In my head, I'm thinking, okay, all right. I listened. I listened very calmly. And I let her say whatever she wanted to say to me. And after she was done, and just said to her, I would take accountability. I would take accountability. And I will also say that you have not been a very supportive boss. And for some reason, she was so shocked and taken aback that I called her an unsupportive boss. I think she was shocked because, again, very stereotypically Asian women of color, Asian women especially, we are very stereotypical for being quiet, for being meek. And I think because I'm an Asian woman, she thought that I was just going to listen, take it, and not say anything. She didn't think I was going to advocate for myself. And that moment, I knew. That was a meeting, that was a moment, that was a shift that confirmed everything. And it reminded me again of my first job, saying, okay, this environment is not safe. It will never change. It will never change. And you either stay and continue taking the abuse, or you got to go. And this is where I will end. So there's a part 2 to all of this. There's a part 2. So I will end there. And before I close out the episode, I want to explain why I chose to share this story in therapy conversations and not like my mental well-being and leadership. The irony is that everything I went through that happened while I was getting my clinical hours to become a therapist. Like, this is a social work. These are the very systems that teach us to care, to advocate, to support others. And these are the very same systems that failed to care their own workers. This is the irony of all of this. And this is why this episode belongs in therapy conversations, because therapists, social workers, and helpers We all go through this all the time, silently, alone, thinking that we're the problem. The system has trained us to think we're the problem. And if you are in this field and any part of my story resonates, I want you to know that you're not alone, that you are feeling real. And this didn't happen because you were weak, it happened because the system was. And if you're not in the therapy helping field, and yet this is happening to you, I also want to acknowledge that organizational trauma and abuse happens everywhere. It has no class, no culture, nothing. This happens every freaking day, and it does not get discussed, and there's no accountability for it. And this is why I chose to do this episode. Even though it's in therapy conversations, I know that everybody in the world is going through this, and I want to acknowledge you also. And lastly, before I close, like before I really close this time, I want to share why this story matters for the work I do today. Everything I went through, every dismissal, every disrespect, every gaslighting, is the exact reason why I am an organizational trauma informed leadership consultant now. If these experiences hadn't happened, I would not have been able to build the frameworks that I am using today for consulting. I wouldn't understand workplace trauma on a personal and a clinical level the way that has helped me shape and be the consultant that I am today. And if you are a leader, HR, or someone high up, or CEO, founder watching this is why I help organizations today to see what they've ignored, to understand why employees don't feel safe, to understand why there's no psychological safety, why people are burned out, disengaged, and quiet quitting, and trying to think, oh, what's going on with them? There's a reason why. And especially why trust collapse. These experiences didn't break me, it actually shaped my purpose. And as I look back now, I can see the patterns clearly. At that time, I couldn't. Today, I can name it all. And this is why I'm doing this episode, and this is why I am a consultant. It's to help individuals and especially organizations to take accountability for their part in change and also see what they're doing for to their employees. So that is all I have for part one. Part two will come up to and talks more about my my plans, and that is for anybody who is ready to leave and what I did to leave, but I did it in a very strategic way. So I'll see you next time, and everybody take care, rest, and please do what is best for you. So I will see you all next time. Take care. Bye.